Hey astronauts, it's me, Brandy, and welcome back to Astro Tarot Research. So I'm back with another pick a card reading, and this week's pick a card reading is something that I actually was supposed to do last year, and that is Who Will You Marry? If you guys remember, I did one of the Who Will You Marry videos where I used the astrological chart, birth chart wheel with the 12 houses, and I did the houses 1 through 7. Well, this time I'm doing the houses 7 through 12, and I promised you I'd do this video, and I do come through on my promises. Also, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the bell to be reminded of readings. And feel free to check out my latest astrology video on Jupiter's transit into Sharavana, because we will be having Saturn and Jupiter transiting Sharavana this year. Saturn will be in Sharavana all year. You don't need to know all that much about astrology to understand these concepts. I make it simple and easy for everyone to understand. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Astro_TarotResearch for any sort of updates or astrological findings and happenings and tarot stuff going on. So feel free to follow me there. We have 5 piles to choose from today. We have pile number 1, pile number 2, pile number 3, pile number 4, and pile number 5. So let's not waste any more time and just sit back, relax, and choose. If you've chosen pile number 1, let us get started on your reading. For the 7th house, which is them, we have the King of Wands. For the 8th house, we have the Devil. For the 3rd house, oh sorry, my mind switched up. For the 9th house, we have Temperance. For the 10th house, we have the Empress. For the 11th house, we have Temperance again. Wow, okay, like my brain just farted. We have, for the 12th house, the Ace of Swords. And we have an overall card representing sort of like the marriage and who you guys will marry, being the 8th house. So, of endings and beginnings. So, with the 7th house sort of representing them, this lets me know that, sorry, the 7th house being the King of Wands, which represents them. This lets me know that this is a highly active person and somebody who's usually generally ambitious. So whenever I get the King of Wands, we have somebody who keeps busy. This isn't somebody who's very lethargic. This is somebody who's always doing something, who always has things planned, and who has a lot of responsibilities. And not only that, but they may even have people either working for them or working under them. Or this person may own their own side of business or be an entrepreneur. This is just one of the many interpretations of the King of Wands, but the main focus here with the King of Wands is you have somebody who just has a very busy schedule, and somebody who just has a lot of areas in which they need to pour their energy into. You have somebody who is possibly very creative. Usually the King of Wands is somebody who likes kids, or at least has enough energy to like sort of hang around them. You know, some people, when they have very small children, it's not like their favorite part of that child's life. They prefer maybe like an older kid, just because small children require so much energy. This person has the energy to keep up with, like, small children, if you had some, or if they have some. Just a very active person. This would also be somebody who would have a strong sense of beliefs or morals, or at least they have a strong, a lot of strong opinions, okay, with the King of Wands here. This isn't somebody who you can easily sway, to believe one thing or the other, just because the fire signs connect to the 9th house, and the 9th house is your belief systems, your faith, sort of like your higher intuitiveness. And not only that, but the 9th house does rule like broader communication, which is why you have the 8 of Wands being like a fire sign and representing communication. It would like connect to that 9th house energy of being somebody who is on a stage, not literally, but like they're in a position in which they are broadcasting themselves, or they have a lot of people willing to listen to them, which makes sense with the King of Wands here. So maybe you have somebody who has their own platform, maybe somebody who has a strong follower base, or just somebody who is just in a leadership leadership position, and so they have people who work under them so their voice can be heard. Or it's possible that they're being very quite literal and this person works in a media field and they're like a journalist or like a tele newscaster, or they own their own sort of like publishing company with books and stuff like that, or they're a writer. That's one of the also interpretations of the King of Wands. When we have the 8th house being your marriage and who you marry or what kind of marriage you have, this 8th house represents your in-laws. And when we have the devil here, I'm not gonna lie, it can just mean in the most positive ways. When we have the devil here, it just means that you have in-laws who got some money. Okay, so you have in-laws who have a stable background, who have built up some sort of wealth, and or they're in a position where they're empowered, or they have like some respect on their name, like they're doctors, they're lawyers, they're PhDs or something like that, because it relates to the sign of Capricorn, which is very high achieving. Okay, so that's another thing that it would have to relate to in that manner. Not only that, but when we get this energy here, you can get somebody who is very much into, I'm trying to think of like a positive spin, very much into comedy. Okay, so I've gotten the devil card to represent somebody who may have like a wild sense of humor, who can be very out there, who can be very outspoken sometimes, or who can just do and say things that's very clever. Not sure why the devil card comes up that way for me, but it does. Like if something's very humorous or something's very outlandish, I may get the devil card. I guess it's just sort of like giving into sort of like pleasure senses and etc. So you have somebody who can be very much like, let's have a good time, let's go party, let's get some drinks, let's go have some fun, let's watch movies, let's joke around. So that's another positive way. For other people, this can mean like the in-laws are very much like closed off. They're really, or they're very like, they can be very like strict or like judgmental. It just reminds me of that what's that movie, Crazy Rich Asians, and you had the mother-in-law who just didn't want to accept the girl into the family because she didn't meet her standards of being like super rich or whatever she was going for, some sort of like royalty or background to her name or etc. So you may have in-laws that can be very hard to please in that sense. Another thing is with the devil, the main message I get from the devil is a sense of power and control. Okay, so whenever I get the devil that comes up, it stems from a sense of insecurity. Either somebody's not getting their emotional needs met, or some sort of need or attention that's not being met, and because of that they sort of cater to their lower sensibilities, whether that is doing drugs, whether that's like trying to manipulate someone, whether that's somebody who is violating other people's boundaries, you know, or somebody who's acting out in a way that is not healthy. Okay, that's basically what the devil card's saying. Somebody who's maybe addicted to a certain behavior that is not beneficial towards them in the long run. Okay, so you may get in-laws who may be in that realm as well. So I want to give both interpretations because, you know, everything's not always as amazing as we would like it to be, right? Then we have the 9th house. So we already know that this person had strong belief systems, given that we had the King of Wands here. But when we have this here sort of representing your marriage in general, because 9th house rules contracts as well, and so contracts, marriage would be a contract, it looks like things are going to go smoothly. I think that's what the main message of the cards are saying. So you guys won't have too many issues sort of like intertwining your lives together, and it's going to be a very smooth process with the justice of peace and everything like that, and registering your marriage, and you guys will pretty much maybe agree on things. You know, some people may disagree on like changing last names or hyphenating names. For you guys, it's going to be pretty simple and easy. You're going to agree and you're going to compromise, but either way, it has to do with creating some sort of balance. Another thing this would indicate is that you guys will bond over your belief systems, because we have this double Sagittarius energy, because Temperance is connected to the sign of Sagittarius. So one thing that you two will have in common, it could be that you have the same spiritual beliefs, you have the same religious beliefs, you may even just have the general same way of communicating as well, because this, like I said, the 9th house does have to do with communication, higher communication. So you guys are willing to put in that effort to meet each other halfway and to communicate and compromise during your marriage, which is going to be very, very helpful towards you. I realize I'm talking a lot, so I'm gonna have to speed this along before this is like a 20-minute reading. When we have the Empress representing the 10th house of your marriage, which is sort of like the long-term goals of your marriage, how things are going to play out, as well as like the reputation of you guys as a couple, and how you function together as a unit, as a partnership, right? So the Empress is very, very good. That lets me know that overall that you guys are you just want a happy marriage. That's like your main goal when for you guys to come together, because the Empress has to obviously do with marriage and happiness. And not only that, but we have this cloak on the Empress. One thing that is important to note about the cloak and the symbolism of the Empress, it has to do with the mysteries of nature. Not particularly maybe the mystery, but more so just nature in itself and what it's being revealed to you. And I mentioned this because I have this roundabout way of talking, but I mentioned this because it's very natural, like you guys aren't hiding anything, if that makes sense. But if this were like on the High Priestess, which is like her sister card, because you see this cloak in the curtain in the background of this pattern with the High Priestess, it has to do with more like feminine energy, and like naturalism and secrets of nature and stuff like that. With this, it's very open, like you guys are really just falling into that I don't want to say normacy, but you're falling into what people would, I guess, expect for marriage. You know, some people, they may get married to benefit them financially, or you have other people who may just get married because maybe they want the title, or maybe they feel like other people are doing it, so they want to do it, or etc. Or like maybe they've been with someone for so long. You guys are falling into this space where it's like, oh, we want to get married because we are happy and we want to come together in a union and we want to create together. So this would be indicative of just like having children, like a very sort of like almost traditional sort of, we're two people who fell in love and we want kids together and we want like happiness. So not much like intricity, you know, it's not complicated. Gosh, I can't even speak today. It's not complicated for the reasons why you guys want to get married. There aren't any hidden motives. Gosh, took me 5 million years to just say there's no hidden motives. Everything's out and open and on display for you guys in your marriage. And this would also indicate having children within the marriage. And obviously as a reputation, you guys, people would just sort of like see you guys in harmony as well, and just see that you're naturally growing within your marriage and having that smooth sort of communication. Another thing that I noticed about the Empress, because she's connected to Venus, it just kind of just means people see you as like a beautiful couple. Okay, so with the 11th house, Temperance, similar to this thing, how we have this belief systems coming into play, and then this would be like how your friends within the marriage, which would be like your friend groups would come together, because your friend groups you guys really have similar ways of communicating and similar people you want to bond with and connect with. And with these two Temperance here, it's just saying the friends are coming together. You guys are like blending friend groups, as well as it's saying you're blending incomes, as well as it's also saying that there's more than likely going to be quite a few parties and celebrations. Like you guys will probably be friends with a lot of people who are also married. You know, some people, they're married, but all their friends are single. Not you guys. This is more like once you are at the point of getting married, most of your friends will be married and most of their friends will have been married, or they're in a couple, or they're in a union. Another thing that this says is that you guys will have a lot of get-togethers when it comes to having company over, or maybe you'll be invited to a lot more get-togethers just because we have these two temperance energies. Another thing this also says is it also connects to traveling as well, because we have these two things coming together and both of them are Sagittarius energy, and it also indicates a very sort of intellectual friend group as well. A friend group that's like very, very professional, as well as it can be some people who just have very strong opinions, but you guys agree to disagree and you guys are very, very tolerant of each other. Another thing this can represent is like the income within the marriage and how money's coming in. Finances are stable within the marriage and having money coming in. The feminine energy's career will blossom once the marriage happens as well. Another thing, I just get this strong thing where people just have these, I don't know why it's so important that people have these very, very strong opinions. And I think this also would indicate like a friend group that is very, very much interested in spirituality or either religious beliefs, depends on who you are. Okay? I'm trying to say, and I said income in the marriage is balanced. So it's not like you guys are going through rocky ups and downs in terms of income. Okay, there may be some ups and downs, but it's not related to your income. And then lastly, we have the Ace of Swords representing the 12th house, which is like bed pleasures. It has to do with your imagination. It has to do with letting things go, self-undoing, which is like getting out of your own way. It has to do with shame, has a lot to do with humiliation, has a lot to do with I'm trying to think. Creativity, imagination, being able to go beyond your five senses. You know, like when people have very strong 12th houses, they have somebody who is usually very, very intelligent because they're able to expand beyond what we may know. As well as in Vedic astrology, if you have a lot of planets in Pisces, in Vedic Pisces, this would be like Aries, okay? So if you ever meet Aries, a lot of Aries people, you know, Aries has that reputation for sort of being very, very blunt and very, very out there, as well as kind of like a little bit like the reactions are so big, like who's an Aries? Oh my God, the Catch Me Outside girl is an Aries. So it gives that energy that's very like, whoa, this is wild, wild west, okay? So, I mentioned that because when we have that wild, wild west energy, and we have the Ace of Swords coming into you guys' 12th house as a marriage, you guys are kind of like, let's talk about this craziness. Let's talk about the childhood traumas. Let's talk about what is getting you down. Let's talk about that depression. Let's talk about these crazy ideas that you have. You guys are talking about some very, very taboo subjects, as well as subjects that can be a little bit out there and a little bit more metaphysical, and once again relates to the spiritual. And not only that, but when we also have the 12th house, it also means, I don't know, if you're into dirty talk, this would be indicative of that. But it also, within the marriage, it says a lot of things that may even undercut the marriage would be communication. That would be the main thing that would sort of cause this to fall apart. Not being open and honest, which is pretty much very straightforward. I think that would destroy any marriage, but it would really, really, really undercut your marriage, especially since the communication is so strong, okay? That's just one of the things. Another thing would have to do with keeping secrets within the marriage. So not telling everybody your business, and I think this is why the 8th house card came up. Not only that, because of the in-laws, which, like I said, that gets a little complicated, but it also has to do with keeping things private. Like, you know, when someone is in a relationship and then somebody does something in that relationship that bothers them, and then they go to their friends or their family members and they start talking about that person, but they don't really mean it in a way that they don't like that person anymore. They're just sort of ranting and letting those feelings go, and they just want somebody to be like, okay, I'm listening, I hear your frustrations. Like, that's what most people are pretty much looking for when they tell their problems. They just want somebody to like listen to, right? This is saying like, doing all of that would sort of undercut the marriage, and it would create a lot of trust issues. But for the most part, it looks like that you guys have this openness and ability to communicate with each other. But let's go to the overall feeling of this marriage, which is the 8th house, which is a lot of intensity. But because I have you guys being so chill and so relaxed, this lets me know what we're talking about here is not just you guys having these in and outs and these crisis situations. It mainly relates to the in-laws, and to some degree it may relate to your partner's ability to save money. So they may be the type of person who has a lot of income coming in, but because of this King of Wands energy, they may make some impulsive buying. It is a fire sign energy. That's what fire signs do. But the in-laws are going to play such a huge factor within the marriage. That is something that I must say that's going to be important for you guys. I just feel like they're probably going to try to insert themselves within the marriage a lot, which is something that you guys are going to have to deal with as a couple. Okay? So that is what I have for you, pile number 1. That was super long. I did not expect all that, but all that information just came out. And I think this is a really, really amazing marriage. All of you will have amazing marriages. Nothing is set in stone. That is important for me to say. And I will see you guys next time. And that is all. Au revoir. Hey, pile number 2. Let us get started and see who you married and all about your marriage and all that jazz. So we have the 7th house with the 2 of Wands. That is who they are. We have the Knight of Pentacles representing the 8th house. We have the, we have the 9 of Pentacles representing the 9th house. We have the 6 of Cups representing the 10th house. We have the World representing the 11th house. We have the 5 of Cups representing the 12th house. And to summarize this whole sort of reading and what's important and all that, we have Earth element stability. All right, so let us look at this person here. They are symbolized by the 2 of Wands. So your spouse, let's throw this closer. Oh my goodness. Sorry for that. Wasn't liking how that was looking. So your partner is symbolized by this 2 of Wands energy. So that lets me know this is a very, very unique person. Somebody who does their own thing, doesn't really care too much what people think. This is very much an original person. They probably have a unique way of dressing, or they might just have an unusual appearance, because sometimes I get the 2 of Wands to represent somebody who just has a unique appearance, whether that is somebody who's being like multiracial, or just maybe they have unique features in some way, or it's just something like that. It usually just means that they look a little bit different. They move a little bit different. Another thing that this would indicate is also leadership as well. And this can also mean somebody who likes to plan ahead in general, because all 2s relate to planning, and they have a lot to do with interpersonal relationships as well. So you have somebody who is more than likely, they do march the beats of their own drum, but it's not somebody who's a loner, if that makes sense to you. There's not somebody who likes to spend a lot of time alone, especially with this 2 of Wands. They rather be in a relationship. But another way to interpret this 2 of Wands, and this is probably going to be for a very, very small point of view, I just have to mention it only because it is one of the many interpretations. This might not even apply to you in the slightest. But another interpretation of the 2 of Wands is somebody who is always looking for the next best thing. So they have one foot in and one foot out in terms of who they are as a person. They're always looking for like bigger and better. That's one of the interpretations of the 2 of Wands. So I have to put that out there for some of you, which it can mean like a wandering eye. And keeping options open, because like all 2s are just trying to like decide where to go next and what to do. And especially if you're into numerology, if you go through a 2-year, I literally just had my 2-year, and that's exactly what I was doing, trying to discover exactly where I would want it to go next and what direction I wanted to move in. That's why it's always about like looking for bigger and better with the 2 of Wands energy. But that's only for some of you. With this Knight of Coins representing the 8th house here, what this means is for your in-laws, they may be relatively young and they may be workaholics in a sense, and you may not get to see them that much because Knight of Pentacles is always a card that I get for somebody who works very, very, very hard and very diligently, and they may even work too much. But this also relates to your spouse's finances because they have this family who has this mindset as well. This would also indicate that they themselves believe very strongly in hard work, because the 8th house is your spouse's values. So your spouse really values dedication, structure, and hard work. They don't like things to come easy, and they don't like when people take the easy way out. But this can also make somebody highly critical and do things to a point where they're almost like a perfectionist in a way. So your spouse may have that quality, and they're going to get that from their parents or whoever raised them as well. This would also indicate somebody who is definitely not from a upper class background. This is a working class card that I get, either blue collar or like lower middle class when we get to the Knight of Coins there. That is just important for you to know. Not sure why, but this person comes from that sort of background in a sense. But when it relates to you and your marriage, it does indicate that your spouse will definitely have a steady income. Another thing with the Knight of Coins is it can relate to someone having more than one source of income. Like they keep their options open because Knights tend to go everywhere and do a lot of things. Granted, the Knight of Coins is the slowest moving to do so. So it's like they're not like pulling up a new business every week or some get rich scheme. This is somebody who plans things out and has a lot of, maybe has more than one venture going for themselves with the Knight of Wands there. So they'll probably do that throughout the marriage. This would also be indicative of somebody who is just highly practically minded, as well as they may have, how do I want to explain this? They may have a appreciation of old things or traditional things sometimes, okay? And it makes sense. We have the Earth's element of stability. So that's very, very important to them, and that will be a staple thing without your marriage. The 8th house also represents crisis situations. So you could be like crisis situations throughout the marriage, and your crisis situations will have to relate to stability. So you may have a few financial crisis situations going on within the marriage. It makes sense if this person is a blue-collar worker. Then obviously this is not somebody who works for themselves, especially with the Knight of Coins here. Knight of Coins always works for somebody else. So maybe there's a situation where this person may lose their job. Makes sense, right? Like we're in a pandemic. Lots of people have lost their jobs. It's not to do with any fault of this person's own. This person does not strike me as somebody who's just like given up, okay? Or it's more than likely that possibly they have some new ideas and that they want to invest, because you do have this unique personality, and usually people like that, when they have this way of going their own path or setting their own goals, they usually start their own business at some point. Or at least they are part of a field that is quite unusual, and so maybe that goes out of business, or it's hard to get work. Maybe they're like an actor or something like that. I guess it's not that unique. I can't think of any unique jobs. What's like, maybe they work for like now I'm thinking of like Renaissance workers for some reason. Like I don't know why I'm thinking of that, but they maybe work in a unique position where it can be difficult to find work sometimes. But that's just one interpretation. Don't take that as the only one. We have this Nine of Coins relating to the 9th house. And so what this would indicate is having a strong contract, or like somebody who is set up for a, what's the word I'm looking for? The thing that you sign, a prenup, okay? There we go. This would indicate having a prenup which satisfies you both within the marriage, as well as things running smoothly when you go to register as well. This would also indicate somebody who more than likely they have the means to travel within the marriage. But because it's the Nine of Pentacles, and the Nine of Pentacles is about like appreciating what you specifically have and not like going out there in the world and doing things, what this indicates to me is that more than likely you guys are more into sort of local travel, local staycations, and etc. like that. And this could also mean during the marriage you would focus on more spiritual or intellectual pursuits. Maybe somebody, possibly you or the person you marry, which, because we have this Knight of Pentacles here, it's like saying that somebody is more likely to gain some, what's the word for it? When you get a degree or get some sort of skill within the marriage. So it could be like somebody's getting like a master's degree, somebody's getting some sort of skill set or trade. So that's something that you guys would invest in during the marriage in order to, you know, sort of upgrade and benefit and focus on stability. Okay, so that's very, very important. Both of you guys feel a sense of comfort and stability when you feel that everyone's educated or you have a trade that does well. So that's something that will come up during your marriage. This also would indicate both of you finding money to be of importance. I mean, stability is coming up again. It also would indicate having a more ritualistic belief system. What I mean by that is some people, they're just spiritual and they're just like, I believe and I just believe. Other people may sort of meditate. Other people may practice, you know, rituals with fire, rituals with water. You guys would practice like probably your own rituals in relation to your spirituality. Like some people make, like going to church would be a ritual, or saying a prayer would be a ritual. So there's that sense of that within your marriage. Okay, one more thing I wanted to mention is this would be like, because this is fifth from the fifth, this would indicate that you both take a lot of pleasure in having luxury and being able to relax and having that downtime. So you guys aren't just like working to work all the time, even though your spouse may be a little bit of a workaholic, or they but you both will enjoy your gains, if that makes sense. And then we have this 10th house energy representing by the 6 of Cups. So with the 10th house comes in relation to who you marry, or just like your marriage in general. That would be like the reputation of the sort of marriage, or it could have to do with your spouse's hometown, your spouse's mother, your spouse's state of mind, your mental state of mind of this person, which is, this person thinks about the past a lot, and it kind of makes sense because we also have this 5 of Cups going on here. So you have somebody who takes a lot of trips down memory lane. This can also mean just somebody who has like appreciation for their childhood. They have this strong sense of nostalgia within them. In terms of like reputation of like the marriage, what I get with this is people just generally find you guys pleasant to be around. Normally I get the 6 of Cups to being like this helping hand, or they kind of just see you as like, I don't want to say like people just see you as a familiar face, but it kind of can be like that. Like, you know, some people, they have a very unusual sort of pairing, or some people, within their marriage, they may be known as like very professionals and such and whatever. This is more like people will see you guys as either like young and in love, or they can see you as just like an everyday average couple. Okay, that's something I get the 6 of Cups to relate to as well. Or just say like I wouldn't say it's not traditional, but it's like very like you just kind of don't, they don't see you guys as like a bizarre couple. They see you guys as like a good fit, if that makes sense, okay? That's like what I get for the Six of Cups when it comes to like a reputation for that. Another thing is it just kind of just means like you guys can be like very like old school, or come off in that way. And it could just be old school and what it is that you guys are interested in, whether that's like, oh, I like to watch old movies or something like that, so people can just see you in that manner. Another thing with this has to do with career. Now, this is an interesting interpretation because what I usually get the Six of Cups, if it's not representing like memory lane or going down in the past or having someone being familiar or helping someone out. So Six of Cups in relation to career could involve working with children, but really what it means is normally when I get the Six of Cups, just like, oh, if I were to ask the question like, oh, how's tomorrow's gonna be? This would be like same as usual, right? So whatever it is that you guys are going in with the marriage with, granted this person, like I said before, is at some point they may lose their job. They're going to stick to the same field throughout the marriage. It's not like they're going to switch career paths. They're going to still do the same thing, even if they have like business on the side. Like let's say there's somebody who sold comic books, and then maybe they had to put that business on hold, or maybe that company, that place where they were at, had to shut down. Well, they would find another job in a comic book store, okay, or something like that. That's a really weird example, but basically it's just saying that they would stick to the same field throughout the marriage, and this would be indicative of you sticking to the same job throughout the marriage, or at least a very similar place, because the Six of Cups is always about security and comfort and sticking with what you know. So that's one of the things that's very important. And obviously the stability card has never been so relevant. It's just feeling like safe and secure. So whatever you guys feel safe and secure with is what you'll be sticking for career-wise throughout the marriage. And people around you will sort of like, they don't see much transformation within your marriage. What they see with you guys when you get married is what they see with you guys 20 years from now. It's not like pile number one, which will go through some transformations. This is definitely just kind of like, hey, this is who we are, and we're gonna stick to what we know and what is true to us and what resonates with us. Okay, so when we have the World card in the 11th house position, 11th house being friends, this would be indicative of you guys having a lot of friends from around the world, or second interpretation, you just have friends that are just very well accomplished or in powerful positions. Normally I get the World card to represent like everything you wanted to accomplish, you pretty much got done and you feel good about it. So that's one thing that we can look at in terms of your 11th house. It's just saying that you guys will have a friend circle that's very, very supportive and very highly accomplished. The second thing that we can look at it is you guys having a lot of connections, or just having a very diverse group of friends when you guys get married. When we have this representing the incomes from work, it does indicate a transformation, because the World card is represented by Saturn, and Saturn always undergoes transformative experiences. So though you guys may be sticking to the same field, the income at some point is going to change. Okay, does that make sense? Whether that is for the better or is that for the worse. With the World card there, that would indicate it would be for the better. So if someone lost their job and they found another one, more than likely they would make more money. So I think that's saying that things are going to be for the better, and it's going to be a gradual growth of income throughout the marriage. And I mean very gradual, because we have this Knight of Coins in that position. Another thing the World card would indicate is having a more mature friend group, or having a friend group that can be, although diverse, but limited. Okay, so that's just for some people. Granted, I usually get the World to represent like a good amount of people, but it is possible that for some people it's just like mature and limited, but that happens. Okay. Also, it also means all the hopes and wishes and the things that you wanted in the marriage, you guys are able to accomplish together, and you guys are get those goals done, and pretty much everything that you sort of wanted to receive within a marriage you would get. Okay, if that makes sense, because the World is like all of those dreams coming true, and the 11th house is the house of hopes and wishes. When we have the 12th house, which is the house of self-undoing, like bad pleasures, it's like the house of anything to do with humiliation, embarrassment, regrets. There are gonna be a lot of moments where maybe you guys are looking back and you're like, man, I wish we had done this, or maybe I wish I hadn't said that, or maybe I wish I had taken a chance on this thing. Or maybe it has to do with having to look back and feel like you had wished certain moments within the marriage hadn't ended. Like, it's just like, oh, remember our honeymoon? That was so amazing, da 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 da. And you wish you could create that moment. That happens sometimes, right? Where you want to recreate a magic moment, especially when we have this Six of Cups being in the 10th house position, where you guys are taking these walks down memory lane, and people are noticing that of you, where they see that you guys really have a strong appreciation for the past and things that you have done together. It's letting me know that you guys will sort of miss those magic moments. It's like you guys are one of those couples that you just want to live in the magic forever. And that doesn't mean that you guys won't have beautiful moments in the future. It's just like you guys really have that strong love and comfort when it comes to the past. Okay. This can also mean for some people that that their partner in particular will feel like maybe there are some moments that they maybe wish they had said or done some things, okay? Or for some people, it can indicate a partner who doesn't like to be far apart, if that makes sense. Because if we look at this, this is their 4th house, which is like they're kind of a homebody, which I don't know if I mentioned. And this would read as this would read as their, excuse me, their 6th house, which they have a lot of disappointments with when it comes to certain conflicts within the marriage. I don't know if I'm explaining this right. I'm not explaining this completely correctly, but it's more like when things are out of harmony and when things are out of sync, this person well, it really gets under their skin. They're not a person who's very good with conflict, and they're not a person who's very good with separation. And it can create a person who does have a lot of regrets, and they miss those moments during childhood. They miss that sense of comfort. They miss not having so many responsibilities, and they would be someone in a way who likes that sense of nurturing and nourishment. And when you are not around, it feels a little bit unsafe or uncertain. It's kind of like when you kids have their parents, you know, pulled away from them, or their parents go to work. You know how kids can really freak out or stuff like that the first time that it happens, when they get dropped off for like kindergarten. They have that sense of where's my parent, like that sense of comfort and stability is ripped away from them. So that's what I wanted to mention. Okay, so this person is a little bit more I don't know what that attachment style is, but it's that attachment style that's a little bit more like we need to be more intertwined. All right, so that is what I have for you, pile number 2. And obviously I've mentioned stability over and over again. That sense of stability is super important. Being reliable, being someone who's consistently there, being someone who has that income coming in. Communication is not the most important thing in the world. I think for the most part you guys have a clear understanding of each other, but what can really sort of cause this marriage to unravel would be holding on to the past and holding on to things that have hurt you, and reliving in that moment, which is going to be something you guys are going to need to revisit throughout your marriage and learn to let things go, learn to let those hurt go, learn to let that sadness go, because that could really to some degree damage your marriage. But like I said, the communication, you have a strong understanding of each other. As long as you guys show up and put in that work, you guys will work. Okay, so that is what I have for you, pile number 2. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Astro-Tarot-Research, and I will see you next time. Au revoir. Okay, if you've chosen pile number 5, let's get started on your reading. So for the 7th house, we have the Knight of Cups, describing your spouse. For the 8th house, we have I believe that's the Hangman. Yeah, the Hangman, describing the 8th house and everything that has to do with that. For the the 9th house, we have the 2 of Wands. For the 10th house, we have the 7 of Wands. For the 11th house, we have the 5 of Coins. For the 12th house, we have the 6 of Wands. And for the overall themes of this marriage and who you marry and all that stuff, we have the 12th house Escape. Alright, so you guys have a very interesting spread. Hold on, let me see if we can bring these cards a little bit closer and within the frame. So, first things first, let's start with your spouse themselves with the Knight of Cups. What this lets me know, usually Knight of Cups expresses this person is either younger than you, or they're a little bit more immature, or they have a little bit less, in this case it would be emotional intelligence. So those are the 3 options. This person's either younger, less emotional intelligence, you know, less mature. And what this can cause, or what this not cause, what this means is you have a spouse who's a little bit more idealist and more romantic. In that sense, you know how when you're young and you have that puppy love and you're like, oh, I'm with this person, I'll be this person forever. For most people, that it doesn't usually work out that way, but everyone has that idea in mind that they're this exception to the rule, that young love is just going to last forever and it's all roses and rainbows and sunshine and they're through thick and thin and all that stuff. So it gives them a little bit of an idealistic perspective. Like usually for women, when they're younger, women and men tend to idealize each other. Women have their own expectations in terms of romance, as well as guys may have their own expectations as well in certain areas in romance and sexuality and all that stuff. And so this person is coming from this place of naivety where they haven't developed that full emotional understanding. This is for some of you, okay? So for some of you, this person hasn't fully developed that full emotional understanding and maturity. That is a very idealized perception of relationships, okay? So that's something that they are learning, okay, within the marriage. Another thing this does is it could just mean this person is just very, very sweet and very romantic. So it does mean that they will like sort of like the traditional sort of candles, flowers, chocolates, roses, planning dates, like doing cutesy stuff, doing couple stuff, matching outfits and stuff. They'll like all of that sort of things. And another thing that this can do, I've seen it for some people, it makes them blow hot and cold, where it can mean somebody's a little bit inconsistent with their I guess their how they express their feelings. Like it makes somebody a little bit more passive aggressive. So instead of saying they're upset, they may just like ignore you or give silent treatment. It's a very like immature sort of way of communicating in that manner. This is making it sound like terrible, but I really do have to emphasize the lack of emotional maturity for some people. And then as I said, for others, it just makes them very like romantic. So let's just move on, because that's who that person is. What else did I want to say? It can also mean that this person is more prone to doing like these big acts of love. Like, what's that famous scene with the radio outside the window? Not saying that they're going to do this specifically, because some people are too literal, but they may do some sort of like act of expressing their love in a sense. That's what the Knight of Cups would more than likely do. This is like one of those people who would do like these crazy promposals with like having a whole bunch of like flowers spelled out with your name and stuff like that. It's just like they would do something extravagant in that manner, because the Knight of Cups can be very like outspoken about their feelings, okay? When we have the Hangman representing the 8th house, it's interesting because the 8th house represents sort of like in-laws, as well as their own your spouse's financial income, as well as like any crises or ups and downs and situations you may deal with within the marriage. And what this lets me know in terms of the in-laws is that your in-laws may particularly be from a different country, or at least a very different background than you, just because when we have the Hangman, that represents the sign of Pisces, and Pisces is like foreign travels, foreign distance, long land, so like lands that are far away. So either your in-laws are at a distance from you, or they're from a different cultural background, or they're just like from another country or something like that. But I usually say it's more from another country and stuff like that, rather than just background, just because the Hangman is something that's like completely out of this world. So it's like completely, totally different from your own reality. And it seems like just another universe. So sometimes when you go to another foreign land, you're like, I can't even, like, people speak another language, different culture, different everything. So that's another thing to keep in mind with the in-laws going on there. Another thing that this would indicate is Pisces deals with communicating without words. So like I said, that's why I mentioned the foreign sort of in-laws and everything, because when we get to the sign of Pisces, the communication, the verbal communication, is not as necessary for certain nakshatras. So we're talking in Vedic astrology. It's the ability to communicate without using words. So it would be like using expressions and, you know, feelings and art and all that stuff, and trying to communicate in that manner and being very like theatrical and dramatic. So this can also indicate you having very like emotionally expressive in-laws, very dramatic in-laws as well, very much so free-spirited as well. So the communication becomes very over-exaggerated in a sense. So that's why I say it can also bring in-laws that are just very dramatic in that way. Another thing this can relate to is, because I said this relates to finances. When we have the 12th house and relates to finances, it just means that your spouse in particular will want to donate a lot of money and to give a lot of way to charity. 12th house doesn't necessarily mean you're broke. I've seen people I've seen placements in Pisces and Vedic and Western, and it's not necessarily like they're broke. There's other placements to indicate like not having money. If anything, this would be like hiding money or investing in things, but it's not necessarily like you don't have money. It's just more like I said, giving it away, giving to charity, hiding it, or going through periods where it's like money's not really that important. Okay, so money's not really that big of a deal. But the main thing I said is like you guys are giving away a lot to charity, and you guys are also probably having a lot of secret funds, especially your spouse. Okay. Third thing this would indicate, as I said, with crisis situations, 12th house crisis situations can be quite intense, just because they have to do with a lot of power struggles. So I don't know if that's a thing within some people's marriages where there'll be some power struggles, but for other people, this can just mean having to deal with a lot of past traumas or past issues, baggage within the marriage, which is like coming up. So maybe they've had some issues, past traumas that they had to deal with. Maybe you've had some past traumas and stuff that you need to deal with, but that's going to definitely affect your marriage. And that's mainly going to be the main thing that's coming up. It's about letting the traumas of the past go away, which is funny. I just realized I don't know why I forgot that this was also 12th house too. So 12th house has just become so important to the marriage. And if I just want to mention that 12th house also has to do with sexuality, as well as the 8th house also has to do with sexuality. So it seems like you guys are very compatible in that area. That would also, so I don't know, 12th house themes. I'm trying to think of other 12th house themes. Imagination, isolation. So what this lets me know is, because we have 12th house coming up so much, and this is in relation to them. Let me pause for a second. Let me pause my brain. My brain is like, you know, ever have your brain just go like a million thoughts at once, and you're just like, I need you to settle on one thought. Okay. So let me just do that right now. So what this lets me know is your spouse is a little bit further away from their family. And it also lets me know that this person very much values their own sense of principles. They're not living by society standards of what's right and wrong. They go by their own inner guiding light. And another thing that this has to do with taking care of humanity and empowering others. So there's a strong sense of wanting to empower other people through your marriage. So you guys are become like very charitable as a couple. Okay, so within your marriage, that's another thing. And then it also lets me know that in particular your spouse values privacy. So that's another thing that becomes something to think about. So when we have this 9th house being the 2 of Wands, and the 9th house being like the house of, I guess, higher commitments and contracts and stuff like that. So it would be like signing the papers that say you were married, or any sort of legal contracts having to do with like a prenup or something like that. This would be like saying you guys have a very unusual, maybe an unusual, if you have a prenup, it's like very unusual, maybe things that are in it, or agreements. Another thing that this 9th house would correspond to is the communication, and you guys, when it comes to communication, are very, very passionate. But not only that, but it's like you have an unusual way of talking to each other, okay? So all I get from this Two of Wands thing, it's almost like if I'm speaking right now and maybe I say something that you're like really interested in and you have a story about and you want to relate to it and you kind of want to jump in right now. That's the Two of Wands. 1 foot in, 1 foot out, right? So when you guys speak to each other, it's almost like you're triggering very like passionate responses. Like somebody will say something and the other person will be like, oh my God, I have something to add to that. And they'll want to butt in. So that's the way you guys will communicate, and where it's going to be like a little bit back and forth, like a little bit, maybe you need to work on the listening skills, one of you or both of you. Okay. So that becomes important to learning to listen to each other, but it's not hostile in any way. It's just more very excitable. And with this placement, it definitely triggers like the imagination and the creativity. So you guys bring out more creativity within each other. In terms of your beliefs, this would indicate that you guys have different belief systems that are very unique, but it works for each other. There's no conflict here. It's just saying that you both are doing your own thing in terms of what you believe and what higher power you subscribe to, or what you want to commit your energy into as well, or what you focus on entertainment wise. This can also just mean you guys like to watch different shows and medias, because the 9th house is the higher form of communication. So that would have to do with anytime I get like a transit to the 9th house, or I've seen other people transit, it has to do with investing in like pop culture, or investing in like movies and shows and just books. It just has to do with like communicating in media. So it just means that you both will have other interests. Like somebody might watch documentaries, another person might watch reality TV or something like that. I guess they're both kind of similar, but like but you know what I mean. You'll have different sort of interests in that area. When we have the 10th house being the 7 of Wands, what we have here is two, like some like very ambitious people. So you guys are both very like go-getters, especially within the marriage. It's a lot of fight and uphill battles. But as a couple, if you want to read this, because the 10th house can be like your reputation throughout the marriage, like how people kind of perceive you guys coming together. And what this I've noticed can mean somebody's very either hostile aggressive, or what it does is it creates people who can be like very closed off. Okay, they're like, I don't want anyone to hang with us, I don't want anyone to mess with us. Like you see how I have all these wands here, and this person is like battling them and hitting them all away. So it could just be like other people are trying to communicate with you, and it's like closing other people off to your marriage. So there definitely becomes a sense of privacy. Like I said, it's probably your spouse who doesn't want other people's opinions, thoughts, or energy within the marriage. That becomes very important to this particular person, okay? And what this also means is you guys kind of get known for like bickering as well. So you guys may bicker a lot. I don't know. It could be playful as well. Sometimes the 7 of Wands is that way, or just become like known for being very opinionated within the marriage. And also it can mean that somebody's traveling for work, because we have this connection to the 9th house. 9th house to be travel, and this is career. So this fire energy would indicate traveling again. And then we also have the 12th house twice within the reading. So there could be a lot more traveling within the marriage. When it comes to the 11th house, there's really no surprise here that we have the 5 of Pentacles. So the 11th house has to relate to friends. And you see how we're kicking everyone away right here? So we have the 5 of Pentacles here, which is like a lack of friends, lack of support within the marriage. So you guys keep either like, it's just like you two at it alone in the world, where you have a very, very tight, small group of friends, maybe even like 1 or 2 friends who are just within your marriage or know each other, but like really neither one of you don't. It's like saying that when you get married, the friend circle will close. Like I've had other pals, the other 2 pals or 3 pals, I can't remember what pal I'm on. The other pals that have done, they had a little bit more of a broader friend group, or at least an opportunity to have a broader friend group. You guys become a little bit shunned in a way. I don't know if you're shunned or if you just when you guys get married, there's less people there for support, because when we have the 5 of Pentacles, it indicates a lack of support, a lack of people around. So maybe your friends will be single and they just kind of fall to the wayside. That happens sometimes, and maybe you guys just don't have a lot of married friends, so you're just like, there's no one to hang out with, and but whatever it is, it's just becomes like the friend circle gets smaller, or I mean, maybe you guys already had a small friend circle when you guys get married. Another thing is this becomes about gains from career, and what I hear from this, because it's like saying the money coming in is from the career is not that great. So it can also lead for some people having some money struggles when you guys get married. So for some people, it's just a lack of support, feeling like an outsider. Other people may be like not having some financial troubles when you guys get married. For other people, it will just kind of feel like maybe the marriage isn't what you thought it would be. So 5 of Pentacles also has to do with feeling like left out in the cold, or lack of affection, or just feeling like maybe you aren't getting your needs met. And because the 11th house has to do with hopes and wishes, for some people it's like their hopes and wishes are just not coming through. It feels like they're getting the bare minimum, even if that. But that's the more negative interpretation. The most positive interpretation I can give of this is that people will not be able to relate to you guys within your marriage, and you just have an unusual situation. So the 12th house, this will relate to pet pleasures, foreign travels, going on explorations, self-undoing, so things that can cause the marriage to fall apart. And let's just jump into it. So when we have this 6th house and it relates to travel, like I said, there's a little bit another indicator that would probably like travel and really get a strong sense of appreciation in foreign countries and just really enjoying going abroad. Another thing is, like I said, the sexual compatibility is very good here. A thing what this would indicate, what can really sort of tear apart the marriage, with the 7 of Wands here, it could be a lot of attention, gaining a lot of success, and ego. Okay, so having a lot of career success, having a lot of demands upon you, having a lot of responsibilities, and having a lot of attention on one of the partners can really sort of pull apart at the marriage. I'm guessing it just will cause you guys to spend less time together. That's usually the issue, especially when people have a lot of success. They spend a lot less time at home and a lot of time away from their partner or kids if they have it. And so that would be something difficult to overcome within the marriage if that were to happen. As well as just somebody not being appreciative, somebody really feeling themselves, and someone acting like the other person is lesser than, or like you feel like some person is like the prize and the other person is not. So that would cause a lot of issues within the marriage. And so I think that pretty much covers everything that could possibly be covered. As I said, this is a very unusual reading. It would indicate that this is it's just generally just a very private marriage. So marriage becomes like almost like this very closed off bubble. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's like away from society, just pulled away towards like your own world or cocoon or something like that. So you guys would not be like one of those super sociable people if you were to get married, okay? So this also indicates having success in foreign lands as well if you were to get married. But that's all I have to say for you guys. Pile number 3, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget to follow me on Astro_Tarot Research. And I will see you guys next time. Au revoir. Okay, pile number 4, let's get started on who you will marry. We have the Knight of Swords representing the 7th house. We have the 8 of Swords representing the 8th house. We have the... Why do we have so many swords? We have the 9 of Swords representing the 9th house. We have the 9 of Cups representing the 10th house. The 3 of Cups representing the 11th. The 8 of Coins representing the 12th. And Aquarius, I know, for the overall sort of themes of this reading. So, right away with the Knight of Swords describing your spouse, this is representing somebody who's very smart, but sometimes this person can say some pretty harsh things, or contrary, Knight of Swords is somebody who can over communicate or under communicate. I don't think these are all on the screen. Sorry guys. The Knight of Swords is somebody who can say too much or just say too little, but those are the general characteristics. It definitely makes somebody who is very curious, somebody who is very much wanting to discuss any issues that come up within the marriage, and it also creates someone who has a affinity towards learning and somebody who can speak quite eloquently, or somebody whose words just kind of stick with you. In my experience, people who have strong air sign energy have a lot of impact on how people will be remembered. Okay, so and what I mean by that is they just mean they say a lot of things that will stick with someone, that somebody can easily learn or pick up on, or will affect somebody in that way with that information. They're just good. They're good teachers too. So this person could be a potentially good teacher, but another thing I want to say, this person could be younger, or they could be a little bit less mature when it comes to effective communication. Okay, that's something to think about. So this person may be the type of person who may not, you know how somebody, like they may be like, if they did something wrong, they apologize, but then they make up an excuse. But everyone knows, like, if you want to do a really well honest apology, then you don't sort of start going into, well, this happened and you did this and and that's why I did that. Like, this person may still struggle with finding the right words and the right way to phrase things. Okay, when we have the 8 of Swords representing the 8th house. So the 8th house is going to be the in-laws and stuff, and we have the 8 of Swords. It can be kind of shy and want to hold back on the things that they have to say. Your in-laws are pretty much scared to speak their mind with you, or they may not feel completely comfortable with expressing themselves. Like, I usually get the 8 of Swords to feel like somebody's stepping on pins and needles around someone, or walking around eggshells. So either they feel that way towards you, or you feel that way towards them. But either way, the communication with the in-laws is a little bit closed off in a way. In general, we have the 8 of Swords again. So I think that might be something that they brought on with them from their family, just because if we read this from their perspective, first of all, these are all swords, so they're all connected, right? But if we read this from their perspective, this would be their 2nd house, which rules their family. This would be their 3rd house, which rules their communication. And obviously, in general, swords represent communication. So what I'm getting here is more than likely this person says too little. Okay, so they don't fully say what's on their mind. They don't fully express everything that needs to be expressed, or they don't do it in the most eloquent manner. And that comes from their family. That comes from what they do. Okay, that's just how they have been brought up. So maybe the family is more used to burying issues rather than talking things out, or maybe the family, there were consequences to them expressing what they had to say in the past, and so now they feel like they have to hold their tongue, and that's generally how things may be in their family. And so this person is the type of person, if they were a liar, they would lie by omission, where they just wouldn't say something. Or so they just feel like if they say something, they're going to be judged. So within the marriage, the communication is a little bit rocky, only in the sense that there are a lot of things that are being left unsaid. So let's move on from that. When it comes to their finances, if they're going through some financial troubles, they're not likely to let you know. Another thing I get with the 8 of Swords is somebody who can be scared to take a risk. So let's say somebody was investing, they may only invest like a couple of $100 versus like a couple of $1,000, which is, it's more practical, but at the same time you don't get that much of a big of a return on something. So they're hesitant to make large risk. Another thing this says is what they value, and what they value is being a little bit more reserved and demure. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. Another thing this could indicate is within the contractual sort of like signing of the marriage and everything, they may not completely be satisfied. If you were to get a prenup or something like that, they may not be completely satisfied with that, or you wouldn't be completely satisfied. But either way, it would just feel like they aren't sure the right way to say something, or maybe you guys don't get a prenup, but maybe this person wanted to, or maybe you wanted to, and maybe you felt like awkward bringing it up. That's another indicator of that. In general, it doesn't have to be that negative. It could just mean this person's just awkward. I've gotten that for the 8 of Swords as well. Like if somebody's shy or someone's awkward, the 8 of Swords may come up. Sorry guys for all the sniffling. I've just been exercising. For some reason when I exercise, like my nose gets stuffed. I don't know what's going on. Whatever, okay? So when we have the 9 of Cups to represent the reputation of the marriage, then we can read this as people see you as like this very idealistic couple, very generous, very giving, very loving, maybe have a lot of parties. Maybe you guys are very, maybe you're known for like foods and like, why would you be known? Cookouts. Oh my God. Like maybe you're somebody who hosts a lot of block parties, cookouts, or maybe you're just people who always bring a certain dish to a gathering if you're invited. Maybe like you make this really great nacho platter and you guys are known for making that, or maybe you guys are known for bringing the drinks and you got the good drinks and stuff like that. Or maybe I know for like the party stuff, like the party fun drugs. I don't know. And so people are like, they know you for that, but whatever it is, people know you for a good time. Okay, so that's what the 9 of Cups energy generally does. It is my food card. It is the card of just celebration, having a good time, having fun. So you people will see you as just fun people to generally bring around. Okay, and they like when you guys come around because you bring a very good energy, which leads us into this 11th house with the 3 of Cups energy. Okay, so you guys have tons and tons of friends when you get married. More than likely this would lead to a big wedding, but I don't know, after the marriage you have lots of connections, lots of friends, lots of love, lots of celebrations. You have a lot of good things going on within the marriage, and especially your spouse. Your spouse is definitely the type of person who will love to invite friends over, because that's just how they get their rocks off, and they're like, I love having people around. I love celebration. I love like gatherings. I love talking to people. They love that social aspect going on, especially they'll love having it at you guys' house, and they'll love that at work. Work too becomes like they're the type of person who will network. They will mingle with colleagues. They will try to mingle with the upper management and stuff. They love that celebratory energy too. They're definitely the type of person who would want to bring you to a work function if they had one as well. The 3 of Cups also represents the sort of income, so this would indicate It could indicate having a business too, because when we have this third party situation going on here, it's just like saying you get income from having like a support group, a crowd, a customer, client base would be what this would be saying altogether. But if you guys don't have your own business or anything like that, it's just saying that income from work depends on maybe clientele. Like maybe you have like a sales sort of job, and so it depends on how many people you can sell things to, or how many products you can sell to some person, or just the general amount of supply and demand going on here. This wouldn't be like I get a steady paycheck every week. It's like it depends on how much I can give to this person or sell to this person, or how much I can that would depend on how much I can make. Okay, when we have this Eight of Pentacles energy representing the 12th house, what this would be indicative of is having someone who is very much focused on improving the sexual life. Okay, so I'm not going to expand into that, but there's a strong focus on wanting to experiment in that area. But if we're just talking about other things, the 12th house rules like travel, there's really not a huge opportunity to travel here, only because with the 8th house, it's just, it becomes very vigorous with its planning. It becomes about like trying to find the right time, the right moment, the right place to go, and just looking at all the little details. So it may take a long time to plan these big trips. Another thing this would be indicative of the self-undoing. So that's like the things that would like sort of pick apart at the marriage. And so one thing that would cause the marriage to sort of like really unravel and not do as well is one, giving into all these like anxieties, because this is like the 8th house energy going on here, and being very critical of either yourself or other people or each other within the marriage could be an issue, because sometimes the 8 of Pentacles has this really, really strong focus on the small things, and there could be a lack of appreciation going on there as well. Another thing would be the family, the in-laws can bring this own sort of heaviness, as well as the style of communication, having to constantly read between the lines and look for little clues in communication could really get a little bit exhausting after a while, would be one of the things, because you're constantly feeling like maybe you missed something, or you get something, and that would be not that great for the marriage. Okay, but it doesn't matter, because everything has room to improve and doing wonderfulness and great things and go beyond to a wonderful place. So the general feel for the marriage is Aquarius, I know. And so with Aquarius, I know being the general theme, we already get this huge expansive friend group. The focus becomes on the 11th house, and maybe even the sense of being like a humanitarian throughout the marriage and giving back to the community. But you guys are really invested in your community when you guys get married. It seems that you guys have this strong desire to be around friends and family, particularly friends, because I get the 3 of Cups relating more to friends rather than family. But you just have this broad circle of people around you, as well as the ability to, I guess, pick up on each other's quirks would strengthen within the marriage, because Aquarius relates to I know and that energy. So it's like a growing intellect within the marriage. So it's more like learning from each other. Okay, so that's something that becomes important and a staple within the marriage, the ability to grow and to gain knowledge and to gain insight within the world, and having a strong community of support. So it really does become a very, very interesting, happy marriage here. Another thing we want to look at is the lack of fire energy here. So there's not as much like passion, which is why I said you guys may have to like build in that area. I'm not going to go into details about that, but like when we have a lack of fire, we have a lack of like passion or sexual energy like that like it's like a lack of hunger towards each other, right? So it's not a passionate marriage, which can be good and bad, because passionate can be very like argumentative as well. So so you get both, you get the good with the bad. Everything has good and bad with it, right? So there's a lack of that, but also that would also mean a lack of arguments, which kind of makes sense because we have this Eight of Swords here, right? So you guys are holding your tongue. So there's not a lot of argument here, just because you guys don't want to step on each other's toes. So that's another thing I wanted to bring up. So this has been a pleasure reading for you guys. You guys are very intelligent, and you guys have this very humanitarian sort of vibe. You definitely seem like you are ones to bring communities together, to bring people together, to be very respectable in your image, and to really connect with each other, especially on an intellectual level. You guys really will help expand each other's minds, okay? So that is what I have for you, pile number 4. If you would like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget to follow me at Astro_Tarot Research, and I will see you next time. Au revoir. Okay, pile number 5, let's get started on your reading. So we have the 10 of Wands in the 7th house position, the 3 of Coins in the 8th house position, the Ace of Cups in the 9th house position, the Knight of Cups in the 10th house position, the Fool in the 11th house position, and the Hermit in the 12th house position. And we have Scorpio transform in the overall theme of this position. So let's pull this closer. I keep pulling them down like that. Okay. So when we have the 10 of Wands representing like who they are, there's somebody who takes on a lot of responsibilities and probably doesn't know when to say no. So they need to learn to set those boundaries and rules for themselves to know what it is that they can take in this world and how much they can take on. I feel like this person just has a lot of trouble when it comes to balance. Okay, so this person is biting off a little bit more than they can chew at the moment, but this is a generally responsible person, and it's somebody who is highly ambitious. Another thing I get with the 10 of Wands is it creates somebody who has a lot of strong sexual desire. So I mean, do with that information what you will. Okay, another thing, it can just bring a lot of desires in general. What this means is somebody who has a lot of things that they want to accomplish in life, and so they have a lot of different arrows going in different directions. So they're like, oh, I want to write a book, oh, I want to learn how to figure skate, I want to learn to rock climb, I want to go go-kart racing. So it just creates a passion for life, a passion to drive, to live, to go, and to get where they need to go. And this person doesn't like to waste any time or waste a minute doing anything. Okay, they're like I gotta go, but they are putting a lot of strain on themselves. So I feel like when they meet you or when you guys get married, they're gonna be at the point of time where they want to just either like want to just drop a few things, or it's just throughout the marriage they're struggling to find that balance of trying to figure out how they can accomplish everything they want to accomplish without stressing themselves out. But because this is a card that would indicate having a lot of high stressors. But very excitable person, very fun person, very outgoing person you have here with the 10 of Wands. Definitely somebody who's just very sociable and informed, okay? When we have the 3 of Pentacles representing the 8th house, so the 8th house can be your in-laws and such. So that would indicate that you would probably really get along with your in-laws. You think you guys will have a lot of things in common, or at least a few things in common, and which you guys can have some pretty decent conversations, okay? So you have similar values, similar belief systems. So that would be like, let's say you're somebody who has high self-esteem, okay? So your in-laws may in turn also have high self-esteem, and maybe they get their confidence from their ability to I don't know, learn and grow or accomplish some sort of skill. And you may find yourself getting your confidence from the same era. So that's what I mean by you guys have similar values and belief systems. You just will find yourself having the way you value things and the way you believe in yourself and your confidence may come from a similar place as their confidence. Maybe their confidence comes from their religious beliefs, and then your confidence also comes from your religious beliefs. It's just saying that you guys will have a lot in common. When it comes to this being like the income, your spouse's income, with the 3 of coins, it's enough to get by. The 3 of coins isn't somebody who's broke, but they're not someone who's super rich in general. They're just kind of like a working average sort of Joe person who has enough to get what they need to get. Okay, they're that type of person. Another thing is it could possibly mean that the way your spouse makes money is just through a collaborative means. That could be anything from like, oh, I'm in a band together, or I work on a business and here are my partners. Anything like that. They wouldn't be somebody who just flies solo, like, oh, I'm a YouTuber and I fly solo and that's how I make my money. This is somebody who makes money by collaborating with people heavily. And it's not like just like, oh, I collaborated once. It's like, this is what I do. I work in a group. Another thing is this would be crisis situations coming up within the marriage. And when we have the 3 of Pentacles, it really is a work card. So there may be some issues going on with work in general, career stuff. Those would bring like a lot of crisis situations. Maybe there's some crazy work moments. Maybe this person loses a job. Maybe this person needs to move for a job. But the main sort of stressor or situations that may come up that could bring some strain upon the marriage will be work related. Okay. Yeah, pretty much. When we have this Ace of Cups being their communication, it really brings somebody who's very emotional in their communication. So that the way your spouse speaks to you is not in a way where they can easily hide their feelings. So this is a person who wears their heart on their sleeve. And so the way you also guys communicate with each other will be with just about your feelings. It's a very open and vulnerable sort of way to communicate with the Ace of Cups here. You just kind of say how you feel. Not afraid to, I guess, get hurt in a way, because the Ace of Cups is just very out and open. You see they got this palm reached out just saying, hey, this is me, this is who I am. So you guys just be very open with each other in your communication. Another thing this would indicate, because this has to do with travel as well, it could indicate taking some romantic vacations. Like that's going to be pretty consistent throughout the marriage, as well as this would also indicate believing in a more spiritual belief system. Really with the cups, that rules like the 4th house, rules the 8th house and the 12th house. And these are all sort of like emotional transformative houses, and they deal with they have a lot to do with the past, childhood, as well as even sometimes past life and everything. So a lot of the things that you guys may discuss may have to revolve around maybe past reflections, deeper emotional patterns that you may have had in your life, instances where you felt were defining for your emotional character. So you have very like deep emotional conversations with each other. This can also mean that you guys will want to I guess just talk about feelings a lot. I don't know how else to explain and interpret that message and way of communication. It could also indicate being in touch with spirit guides and etc. But that's just one of the many ways to interpret that. Okay. When we have this Knight of Cups energy representing the sort of reputation for the marriage, what this does is it creates a reputation where you guys come off very lovey-dovey, very romantic, very like touchy-feely. It also can mean that you guys can be a little bit dramatic sometimes to people, because the Knight of Cups can be very hot and cold and very like up and down, and so sometimes you can come off as like that on and off couple. For some of you, not all of you, I have to repeat that, not all of you will have this reputation, but quite a bit of you will. So that can be one of the ways. Another thing, can people just see you guys as like young and in love? Another interpretation, because 10th house rules like your career, so it can just say your career is like after marriage, which after marriage it seems like it seems like the career is like you guys are mainly, this is somebody who's working for somebody. It's not like getting into this super high position within the job. It's not like you guys will all of a sudden shoot towards the top and make all these connections and grow within the marriage. I mean, I kind of feel like you will grow within your career, because the Nine of Cups is always growing. It's growing into that Queen of Cups and that King of Cups, and they're growing into that energy. So it is a growth, but it's not like this substantial impact on your career when you get married. It's really not at all. If anything, it just may affect your mood. So people just may see if you guys are in an argument, then it shows at work, and you may be in your bad mood. If you guys are having fun and going on some trips and having good communication, then maybe you're whistling at work. So it's just more like it'll affect your mood when you're in that work environment for either you or them or both of you, okay? Another thing we have with the Fool card here, and I do want to apologize for the sniffles and stuff. I don't know why, I'm just working out, so when I work out, like, I just get my nose stuffed, sniffles, I don't know. When I do anything, my nose gets stuffed, okay? So when we have the Fool card here representing the 11th house, which is like friends, network, circles, whatever, you guys have this big wide world open to you. So you guys are willing to make friends with anyone and anything. You guys are just really, really open as a couple. So I do see that once you get married, there's a lot of opportunities to travel, to meet a lot of people. It doesn't necessarily mean that you guys have a huge network of friends. If anything, with the Fool card, they kind of have more acquaintances. So I wouldn't say there's this large connection of like really deep, close friends. It's more like you're just, like I said, you're just open-minded to meet new people, and your friends keep an open, your friends in particular, the ones that you have, will keep an open mind about your marriage. And another thing this can be is that your spouse may have some unusual hobbies, or they may have some hobbies in which they are very technical, or very much having to do with something that's quite unusual, like starting something new. Like if they were like, oh, I'm gonna make jewelry for kittens or something like that. Like they may have a hobby that's just like unusual, okay? Something like that for the spouse coming up here. Generally, this is a very sweet person. They're just like very, very passionate. A lot of energy here. When we have the Hermit representing the self-undoing, and also with the income, because we have the Fool here, the income, the money that's coming in within the marriage is very sporadic. It's not as consistent when it makes sense, because when they have the Knight of Cups, when representing the career, the Knight of Cups isn't really consistent. So that could be, changing jobs, changing location. It's quite possible that you guys may have to travel a lot. I only say that because these two water cards are connecting. The 9th house can connect to travel, and then we also have the Fool here, another thing having to do with travel. So it may just mean like you have to go to different places to look for work at various points in time within your lives, and that, changes the flow of the income, okay? But I don't see you guys like scraping for coins or anything. when we have the Hermit here representing the self-undoing, so I would say thinking too much about it. Like the self-undoing is like the things that really cause you to self-destruct, right? They cause you to be ineffective. In this case, it would be self-destructive towards your marriage. So when we have the Hermit in this position, somebody who's like overthinking things could be an issue. Another thing would be if someone was trying to figure things out on their own without communicating with the spouse, that would be not as effective, because I have a feeling that you guys will both have just different opinions. Being very inclusive is going to be very important when it comes to decision making. Like sometimes people can just, oh, I'm going to decide this and my partner already know they're going to be cool with it. With this one, it would definitely be beneficial to communicate about a lot of things. Okay, it doesn't even have to be like heavy communication, because there's no swords here, so you guys don't need tons and tons of communication like certain piles, but just being open and letting your spouse into your thoughts is going to be very beneficial. The self-undoing when it comes to the Hermit, sometimes the Hermit can just like pull away. It can literally just being a person who needs a lot of space would probably not be good for the marriage. Maybe you're a person who needs a lot of space, or maybe your spouse needs a lot of space. But as I was saying, with the Hermit being a lot of space, like some people, they like having a person who gives them space. Other people do not like that. In this case, having a lot of space in the marriage or having a lot of alone time would not be that great. I'm guessing either you or your spouse doesn't like that, or maybe it just leads to a lot of miscommunication. I'm not really sure, but that's something that would be a self-undoing. Another thing, if it's not any of those, the last interpretation, because the Hermit card relates to Virgo, it could be like working a lot would be problematic for the marriage, which makes sense if we have this 10 of Wands energy where somebody's constantly sort of busy and doing things. Okay, so another thing is a lack of consistency going on here when it relates to Virgo, because Virgo's like everyday activities and your daily routine, your regiment. So not having a strong regiment could be like very problematic for you guys. Like not having a consistent routine would be difficult. Another thing that we have here with the Scorpio transformed, sort of representing the overall energy of the marriage, is if we definitely have you guys transforming each other's emotional state. So when we have Scorpio transform, normally I get this for letting go of, like they say, things that no longer serve you. So things that are not beneficial towards you, whether that is having, I don't know, any bad habit you could think of, or having friends or family members that you just like, I'm kind of done with you guys. Your energy just doesn't match my energy. Or going places that you're just like, I don't really like this place anymore. This is really not my vibe, or something like that. It's just letting go of things that you just don't need anymore. And so that becomes very important within your marriage. You guys will learn to let go of all that baggage or emotional things that just don't serve you to think about. Okay, sometimes if you have a lot of traumas or past things that are issues for you, you can find yourself thinking about those moments again and again at just like random times. And this energy with this Scorpio transform is about letting go of all of that and living in the moment and being present, because Scorpio wants you to empower yourself emotionally. If there's one thing I've learned about Scorpio, it's about taking your vulnerability and standing within it and being strong within it. That is what Scorpio's energy is about. That's probably why Scorpio has so many world leaders, because they just kind of go for it. It's just that feeling of being empowered within yourself and not letting other people get to you. If someone wants to laugh at your pain or be hurtful towards you, you just gonna let that slide off of you, okay? That's what this marriage is bringing you, a sense of transformation and empowerment, okay? That's something I want to make known for you. You're just expressing what you feel within this marriage. Maybe you never had that opportunity to really just express and let go, and now you're getting that opportunity within the marriage to do so. Another thing I do want to say with the Hermit here, there's not a lot of traveling within the marriage, except for maybe the romantic trips, but you guys aren't maybe let me rephrase that. You are traveling, but you're not doing long distance traveling a lot. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say. So you're traveling, but it's not long distance. I don't think I phrased it right the first time. So this would be like you're traveling within the country or something like that, or maybe you go to every now and then you may go out of the country to some romantic vacation. So, but it's like a getaway. It's like a isolated thing. Like you guys aren't doing like group trips with friends and stuff like that. Like that's not y'all. It's just like, just when you're traveling, you're like, it's just the two of us. That's it. Okay. That's what's happening here. So that is what I have for you guys. Pile number 5, you have a very, very active spouse. They have a lot of things that they want to accomplish in their life. They're very busy. They're very high energy. You guys will be comfortable with each other and be able to express each other's feelings and emotion. You will find a strong emotional connection. That is the most important thing. This card is this is the strongest pile for having a strong emotional connection with someone. I'll say that out of all the piles that I've seen. And yeah, there's just a lot of, you guys just feel like the world is your oyster when you get married, okay? Yeah, I'm trying to see if I picked up on anything else. That's what that pause is for. But that is all I have for you guys. I will see you next time. Au revoir.